I was accelerating very quickly through these different psychedelic states, and I was living in these bliss states. But at the same time, like I said, my mother had cancer.
Do you feel Vipassana meditation is like a great tool for entrepreneurs to be more productive?
So just the ability to do that will make you more money. So entrepreneurship is the active branch of spirituality because it's an opportunity to apply everything you learn and add it to the world and give it to other people.
Welcome, and before launching the episode, I want to take 30 seconds here to give some context to this episode because you'll see that I look younger. It's because this episode is from almost 5 years ago. And at the time, the guest, David, he asked me after to actually unpublish the episode because he didn't want his personal brand to take too much focus away from the movement he was creating. But now that he's started a personal brand again, I asked him if I could publish again, and he agreed. So I reposted the episode. It was doing really well before I unpublished it because there's a lot of timeless wisdom in it. So I'll let you enjoy this one. And also, it was my first episode in a full-on studio, like the one you'll see there. So if I look a little bit nervous, it's because it was a bit intimidating to have these big lights and professional setup for the first time, but it was a very beautiful interview. And by the way, if you're a conscious leader who wants to start a high-impact podcast too, you can learn from my lessons over the years, and you can see the link in the description and we can have a chat. Enjoy the episode. Hi, and welcome to this new episode of The Light Leaders. Today, I'll be with David Hans Barker. Meditation saved David's life. David was raised in borderline poverty and was surrounded by abuse, drug addiction, violence, and suicide for the first half of his life. But this difficult upbringing became the best thing that could have happened to him. A desire to overcome these issues and the love he felt for his family made him obsessively passionate about finding a solution for people experiencing the same kind of suffering. Fast forward 21 years, and David Hans Barker is an 8-figure entrepreneur, CEO, and head meditation teacher at the Istana, his cliffside retreat center in Bali. He attributes all of his success and happiness to the benefits received from deep meditative practice and has dedicated his life to creating systems to help others access the same power that he has. After living like a monk for 3 years and spending up to 18 hours a day meditating, David's life started to transform. Now he creates systems so that other people don't have to become monks to overcome suffering and achieve success. He founded YogiLab to do exactly this. Life can change. There is a solution. His life is an example of this. Meditation is a superpower, and the whole world deserves to have it. David, I'm so excited to have you at The Light Leaders today.
Pleasure to be here, Alex. Thank you very much for the introduction.
Thank you. And let's jump straight into it. I like to ask my guests from the beginning so people can see what you stand for. What is your vision for the world, your greater why? And what is your business and how does it relate to that greater why?
My greater why is simple, and it's really just to do with exactly what you said there. Like, my whole life is focused on that. Meditation did change my life, and it gave me the power to be able to do whatever I want to do. And so I'm always grateful for that. I feel blessed because of it, and I want everyone to have the same thing. So my vision right now that we're working on is to be able to deliver the most powerful meditation technique that I've practiced to the world for free. So at the moment, how my business is helping to deliver that is that we run free meditation courses every month from the 11th to the 22nd of the month. Anyone can join from anywhere in the world. They just have to be willing to take the time out to practice. And our goal is to get to 80 million meditators in the world. Because I'm sure you've heard of the Maharishi effect. Whereas if you have 1% of a population meditating, then it starts to produce enormous shifts in the rates of violent crime and peace and harmony and even affluence in the area. So 1% of the world population is just under 80 million. So we want to get out there and give the technique to 80 million people.
Maharishi, who founded the Transcendental Meditation.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. He's the one who proposed the idea of the Maharishi effect.
Okay, so we'll talk about that definitely. That's super interesting. But first, I like to start with the hero's journey. So I talked a bit about it in the introduction, but yeah, can you share a bit more about what led you on this path of the importance for you to share meditation, and maybe if you had a moment when you hit rock bottom or you had that aha moment you want to share with people?
Yeah, I think rock bottom's such an important thing, and it's exactly like you said there, and you said with my intro, is that once you do hit the rock bottom, once you do grow up in a situation where there's no escaping the pain, it's almost a blessing. It's a benefit because all the time we're consistently facing difficulty, suffering, and a lot of it is to do with how we frame our ego. Whereas if you've hit rock bottom, then you're already at the lowest point you can be. And then from there, you've got two choices, right? One is to end your life, and the other one is to pick yourself up and choose to do something different. So for me, luckily, I hit that rock bottom very young. I hit it when I was 14 years old. And so once I hit that rock bottom, after laying there around feeling sorry for myself for a little bit, I realized that I was the one who'd got myself there. And whatever I chose to do after that was going to dictate where my life would go and what it would become. And so from that point forward, I started to consciously choose what my life was going to be instead of just take what was given to me. And how it changed that day was really simple, but to me it was a big change because I lived in a house full of people who were just in pain. And we were all just constantly throwing our pain on each other. You know, here's some more pain, take some more pain, and pushing ourselves to that. So I was there dreaming of being in a loving, happy family where we're all supporting each other, whereas we're all doing the opposite. And little things start to become big things. Like no one's willing to look after the house or look after the space. So we live in this horrible place. And then that day when I got up when I was 14 and I realized something had changed, something had really changed, something in me had died, a piece of my ego maybe, who knows. And before then, I wouldn't do any cleaning I didn't have to do, unless I was forced into doing it by my mother, threatened to be kicked out of the house or something like that. That day I got up and I saw all these dishes that were stacked up there, dirty dishes that we left lying around. And I just thought, I'm not going to school today, I'm just going to clean the house. So I just got up and I cleaned the house because I realized that until that day, I'd been looking for other people to do something for me. I've been looking for them to change and for me to be the recipient of their change. Whereas after that day, I realized that if I'm not willing to be that person, if I'm not willing to change and I'm not willing to give something back to other people, how can I expect them to do anything for me?
And how old were you? And was there a specific trigger that made you realize that?
I was 14 years old, and yeah, there was a trigger. I lived my entire life in fear and pain up until then. There might have been glimpses of fun, obviously, and light and happiness. I'm a kid. Of course, there's going to be those things. But for that moment, it was just the point that I realized that there was nothing for me to look forward to in that day. And then later to realize there's nothing for me to look forward to for the rest of my life. I just had the weight of that on me as a kid. And then I started to blame all the people in my life. And I went through the whole list of them. And then eventually I realized none of them are to blame. I'm to blame.
Okay.
Because the only things that can come into my life are the things that I've allowed to come into my life. Maybe before then, maybe when you're a real child, you're too young to realize that. But when I was 14, I was old enough to realize, okay, I can make the choices of what I want to do, and that's going to dictate what my life becomes.
Congratulations. For me, it took a bit more time. And I remember listening to a podcast by Tim Ferriss where he talks about if you've had a day and everyone is to blame, it's probably on you. And then that was an aha for me.
Yeah.
But so I needed that.
Yeah.
But it's good to if people can realize early on by themselves.
And it's just such a lucky thing because what people don't realize is that, or maybe a lot of people do realize, is that we're always avoiding blame. We don't want to be to blame because to be to blame damages your ego. But if you're completely to blame, you have all the power because you're saying I'm responsible for the situation I'm in. That means I can change everything.
And so from there, what drew you to then become a monk? Was there like a natural evolution?
Yeah, partially natural evolution, which I've become familiar with watching other people's growth paths, how we all go through this journey, like you're talking about the hero's journey, the Joseph Campbell thing, but partially a lot of trial and error. Basically, when I was 14, I decided to become something like a mad scientist. I realized when I was 14, I don't know what works. Clearly, I don't know what works because I'm unhappy. So the things I've been doing have been wrong. So what I need to do now is I need to see what can I put in my experiment that's going to change.
Mm.
And I didn't know if what I was doing was right. It's more like, let me test and see what I do and see what effect it has.
Okay.
So I became a mad scientist and became my own experiment. So I tested different workout systems, different thought systems. I would basically come up with philosophies myself and start to implement them in my day-to-day life and
Mm.
see how they would affect me. And then slowly what happens is after a while of doing that quite egotistically and forcefully, because you're happy you're inventing your own thing, I started to realize that other people had done better than me before that. That what I was inventing was like a baby steps version of
Mm.
Zen meditation or a baby
Okay.
steps version of Vipassana meditation. And then I start to find these other traditions of people who've thought it before and start to implement those things in my life. And that's what led me towards the deep meditation.
Mm. So you were a monk for 3 years?
I
Or
lived like
living
a monk
like
for
a monk?
3 years, but I never chose to take the robes and take the vows
Okay.
because I'm not much of a joiner, to be honest. I'm a big fan of independence and free will. And I didn't want to trade one political system and circumstance for another
Mm.
political system and circumstance. So I didn't want to go into a monastery and just be part of another family.
So you would just be home and sometimes meditate 18 hours in your day.
Oh no, I lived in meditation centers and I lived
Okay.
in
In meditation.
monasteries.
Okay.
And for part of the time, I was at home because I was looking after my mother who had cancer at the time. So there were periods where I was doing all of those things.
Okay.
So I did live in the monasteries, and that's what informed me on the fact that I didn't want to become a monk.
Mm.
I could have, and I would have been very happy doing it because the meditation is beautiful, but I didn't want to join an organization that wasn't fully about attaining liberation and transcendence. And not all of the monkish organizations, if you get to know them, are really about that. So I wanted to be a real monk. I didn't want to be someone who simply signed the papers to say I
Yeah.
was going to be a monk.
Okay. What made you kind of come back from this, from living like a monk? Because today, so you're managing the Istana, that incredible place in Bali where I love
Thank
to
you.
go, and the YogiLab also, you're the online branch of it. Well, how long do you meditate every day now?
Nowadays,
Yeah, now.
between 2 to 4 hours.
Okay. And yeah, what made you want to come back more into the 3D world?
It was a big moment because to go back and re-answer the question you asked me before about leading towards choosing to live like a monk is that I just started to have deep spiritual experiences. The volume
Yeah.
of my practice started to build to the point where my practice was more beautiful than anything could happen in day-to-day life. And I realized that there was more of an internal adventure, an internal journey to go on than there was an external one.
Mhm.
And it led me towards all these psychedelic states. People talk about mystical states, and it made me realize that the universe is an amazing place that we've only barely begun to explore. So then that's why I started to meditate more and more and more and got up to like the 18 hours because it wasn't me sitting there, beating myself up and forcing myself to sit for 18 hours. It was a pleasure to sit there because I'd be discovering new things about the world and the universe all the time. So there came a point where I felt like I had a choice where it was going to be like a point of no return.
Mhm.
I was accelerating very quickly through these different psychedelic states, and I was living in these bliss states. But at the same time, like I said, my mother had cancer and my family had no money, and there was still infighting amongst us and unnecessary arguments. So I could be sitting there in bliss all day, and then from that perspective, it doesn't look like my family's suffering. It looks like it's all part of this big cosmic dance where everything is okay. And I realized I was at a point of moving past these day-to-day issues into a state where I would be disconnected from them. And
What
also,
people call spiritual bypassing sometimes.
no, I don't think so. I think it's genuinely going to a different state of consciousness. Spiritual bypassing would be rationalizing and explaining away what they were going through my perspective. Whereas that's not the case. I could see from their perspective that they were suffering. And I could see through the meditation that we're all part of this pattern, not this conflict. But the question that I was grappling with at the time was, just because I know that the world is really this interplay of forces that you dig into, does that change the fact that from their perspective, my family is suffering? And I was a very young man at the time. I was 25, and I thought, I'm so young, I could easily go back and use some of this energy and this focus that I've developed to be able to help my family to turn things around financially. Because they didn't want to learn spiritual meditation techniques from me. They wanted me to make some money, right? To be able to help them, help the family to grow, help us to be able to live better. So for once in my life, or maybe for the second time, after I cleaned the house, I decided to give my family what they wanted, not what I thought they needed. So they wanted me to make money. So I was like, okay, let me come back to the world. I'm 25. Let me see if I can make some cash, make them happy, and then I can always go and retire to a cave somewhere later.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it seems a bit like a paradox sometimes, kind of an understanding that everything's for the best when you're in certain states of consciousness, and then getting the motivation to actually create less suffering in the world, and to do both. I'd love to get a bit more details on. So you're teaching Vipassana.
Yeah.
Well, why do you love Vipassana so much? Because there are many techniques.
Well, you said right at the beginning that I became obsessed with this question about human suffering when I was younger. So from 14 to 23, I had 9 years of practice where I was digging into a lot of different things, and they worked. You know, a lot of things did work, and it started to change my life, and I was already traveling the world, you know, partially living my dream. But none of them was the answer that I was looking for that could reliably take people into their suffering and teach them to be able to feel it fully without being affected by it. Which to me is like the superpower, because once you have that, everything else is the icing on the cake, because that means that you could be put in every situation and still be able to live it happily and fruitfully. So to me, Vipassana is really just like training to be a human. Gurdjieff said something, which I'm sure you know, which is that humans aren't born with a soul. They grow a soul throughout their lifetime. And I'm not saying that's the case, but I feel like we're born humans with all these amazing faculties, and no one teaches us how to be able to exercise them and apply them. To me, Vipassana is exercise towards becoming a human and then a superhuman.
Yeah, Osho talks about like the human is the only one that has the seed, but it's not guaranteed. It's going to grow. It really depends on the techniques you're going to use.
You've got to plant it in the right place. You've got to water it. You've got to give it sunlight and a little bit of love as well. And then that thing might grow into a human.
And so regarding Vipassana, I'm really interested in, when I have a guest here on that podcast, I'm really interested in two angles. One is how they built a business around something that is like a soul mission. And we'll go to that. But also on how the practice in itself can help an entrepreneur. So like, let's say in the more traditional views, meditation would be kind of not doing anything. And so if you want to build a business, you're like, I don't have time for that. Of course, you know, probably not true. So how does, do you feel Vipassana meditation is like a great tool for entrepreneurs to be more productive?
I would say it is the number one best tool someone could develop if they want to become successful as an entrepreneur or in any area of life.
Yeah.
But first off, let's clear up a bit of a misconception there. Because when people talk about meditation, they talk about a lot of things. There's a lot of different practices that fall under meditation. And this classic idea of sitting there and doing nothing, that's called objectless awareness, right? So that's a state that you want to get to. It's not an activity. So the problem is that when you get a beginner coming in and they get a meditation teacher who doesn't really know that much, you know, maybe they've done a bit of meditation themselves, they've done a few courses, that starts to be a problem in what they teach their students. Because as soon as they come in and they say to their students, right, everybody clear their minds, focus on nothing, sit there and have a clear mind, then they're already giving their students an instruction they can't follow. Because if their students could do that, they wouldn't be coming to their meditation class. There's a book that I love called The Hagakure, The Way of the Samurai by Yamamoto Tsunotomo, the William Scott Wilson translation. And I've been reading it since I was a kid. And it's got this great balance of the expression between what it means to be a samurai from the 16th century in Japan and also Zen perspective, because the author went to become a Zen monk after he was banned from committing suicide after his master died. So him and his wife went and became Zen monks and nuns instead. And then younger samurai would come to him and get advice about the way of the samurai. And one of the passages talks about how this idea of no mind is one of the most harmful things that you can give to a young samurai. Because everybody nowadays wants to achieve no mind. They want to achieve this state of perfection where everything happens naturally by flow. And the Zen monk says that you don't know, that you only achieve no mind by piling effort upon effort. And so that's something that you get through going through stages of awareness. So let's take this objectless awareness, right? How does someone get there? Someone gets there by first focusing on an object for awareness, like a glass of water. Gather your focus, focus it on a glass of water. This is a gross object of awareness and it's away from you. Then you could move to something fluid like the fire, Then you move to something a bit more complex like the breath, which is a piece of you, but it's in and out of you and it's fluid, but it's connected to you. So you can start feeling internal processes as well as external. Then you go into the body, and then you go into the atoms, you go into the energy, you go into the space between them. Then you're getting somewhere close to objectless awareness because you slowly make the object of your awareness more and more subtle. And the more you can move your awareness towards the subtle, the more power it has. And so the problem is, sit down, clear your mind, focus on nothing. You're attempting to give someone 10, 20 years of experience, all this training that you need to be able to get to that state where you even know what it means to have objectless awareness.
Okay.
And people are always attempting to attain that nowadays because that's that state of flow and success that they're looking for. And it takes away the effort, whereas the effort is the thing that leads towards that.
And for an entrepreneur, what would I'm asking for me, what do you think is not for happiness, not for just to grow my business?
Sure.
What do you think is an ideal time per day of meditation?
Well, first off, I would like to say, Alex, that to do with your happiness is going to directly affect your business because one of the reasons why things started working for me is because I didn't need anything. Have you read the book Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse?
Yes.
Yeah, when he first comes back from living with the Buddha and he goes to meet the courtesan and she asks him, what can you do? And he says, I can wait, I can think, and I can fast. And so you don't have the ability to wait, to have true patience, unless you're happy. Because you can't sit there patiently unless you don't need anything else. So the ability to be internally happy, happy for nothing, not happy because of something, is a thing that will make you successful on its own. Because some people, they need to make $1 million a year because they need to feed their habits and feed their ego. Whereas for you, you can make 0 a year because you're happy anyway. Then everything you make is extra and you can live a simple life. One of my best friends when I was younger was in prison. And when he got out of prison and saw my room, he was like, he looked around. He was like, yeah, it's just like my cell, except for you've got a bench press. Because I was just living so simply and so free of anything.
Where did you stop then?
Where did I stop?
When did you stop?
When did I stop meditating?
No, living that simply, because I mean, building the Astana, sharing your YogiLab, this is not, from an external point of view at least, a simple life.
Yeah, not that long ago, to be honest. Like even a couple of years ago, before it was finished building, I was living round the corner in one room. One room about a quarter the size of this room we're in right now. So
why the change?
I haven't changed. Like my life is still very simple. I eat, I sleep, I see my friends, I meditate, I read, I write, I exercise. I've been doing the same things for 20 years, longer than 20 years. My life is made up of a series of very simple things. It's just the canvas that's in the background that's changed. Yeah, the Astana is beautiful. It's on a cliff face and it's got a spa outside and we all get to go and use all this wonderful equipment. But if it crumbled into the dust, then it's nothing. Because I could be alone in a room and I could be doing exactly the same thing I'm doing right now. And thank you, God, for giving it to me. So I'm not being ungrateful. I love the Astana, but it's just it's a side effect. It's not the main benefit. The main benefit is that thing that you're saying the entrepreneurs don't need, which I'm saying they do need, which is their internal happiness. But if you want to get down to, you want some details, right? Like concrete skills that you can use to make money.
I'm not saying they don't need it, by the way. I'm just putting this in that angle. Because I do think it's very important to be happy, to grow your business. And I do think in itself, where a lot of entrepreneurs have that paradigm where they don't really care about happiness, they care about growing their business. And I think that's kind of meaningless. And I'm attracted also to very simple lives. But here we're sharing with, and I'm interviewing you and why we share with this audience is because it's for people who understand that there's nothing maybe better in pursuing success, but still want to have more impact. And you have a lot of impact.
I have a little bit of impact. It's all about scale, right? Like Kanye West is building a city where hundreds of thousands of people can come and sing, gospel songs to God, and he's going to build a model city like that. It's a bit more impact. So it's all like scales of impact. By the way, Kanye, I love the idea. I hope you do it. So, all right, a direct skill someone can get from Vipassana that's going to make the money. That's what you want to know, right?
Yeah.
Easy. So it's the thing that I teach on day 2. Actually, let's go back first. Day 1, mastering your mind. That's what you should learn on day 1. It doesn't even take 10 days. People think, oh, I'm not going to learn to master my mind in 10 days. you should learn to do it on day one, and that's to be immovable. Because if you can learn to focus somewhere, and whatever your complexes are, whatever the stimuluses are that are attempting to throw you off center, you cannot move, then that means you learn to gain control of your mind, maybe the first time in your life. And that means for the first time in your life, you're making choices as opposed to being at effect. You seem like the kind of guy who studied NLP before.
I haven't actually,
You haven't?
but I've heard about it.
So in NLP, they have a phrase, which is you can either be at cause or at effect. Being at cause means that something else is pushing you into action. You're only ever acting by compulsion. Being at effect means that. Being at cause means that you are the person who is the originator of your actions and your choices. So when you master your mind, that's what you learn. You learn to be able to make choices consciously, and then you can start becoming your own experiment. So that's what you learn with that. But you learn that by focusing on your breath. And whenever your mind goes somewhere else, you simply bring it back to the breath. And often people don't realize that's what they're learning when they're doing this. They're learning to be immovable. That means that they can choose what they want.
Actually, when I learned meditation, I wasn't spiritual at all. And that's what attracted me to it, was to be more focused and be more productive.
There we go. And think about this, even from a low level to an employee of a company somewhere who just wants to be a good employee. How many times a day are you sitting there unable to focus, unable to be able to get something done, or you're thinking about your Instagram account, or you're thinking about your ex-girlfriend, your ex-boyfriend, or the argument you had with, one of your friends, instead of being able to focus on this thing you're meant to be doing that's meant to be making you money. So just the ability to do that will make you more money. But what I was going to say originally, day 2, because it's one of the things that helped me to make money, is pattern recognition. And you learn to be able to understand the patterns of life and how things move, which is so obvious how you apply that. If you talk about it financially, you can apply it to the stock markets. If you're talking about it in market strategy, you can apply it to new business and seeing how new business will develop in other areas and be able to grow. And if you talk about it as a human being, you can do what you're doing at the beginning of this podcast, looking at people's success stories and seeing how they all have similar arcs and patterns. So you can do that in any area of life. And how you learn that is by being able to sharpen your awareness. Because if you can sharpen your awareness, then you can see more details. If you can see more details, you get down to the fundamental layer of reality, which show you how things really work. And if you can act there, then you can both predict what's going to happen and benefit from it. Make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, the present is future in the making, if you
There we go.
can see it. I'm really interested also. So, you eat, you meditate, you do your workout routines, and in the middle of that, there's like a place like this, Tana. There's that online community YogiLab that's created. Like how did you bring this? So that's your soul mission. That's what you want to offer to the world, get people to meditate, and so you created that amazing platform. How did you do it?
How did I do it? Build the Ashtana or make the YogiLab, all of it?
Let's talk about YogiLab.
YogiLab.
Yeah.
Well, YogiLab, to be honest, is really just an extension of what I started doing when I was 14, which is experimenting with myself. That's why the logo of YogiLab is basically that story. It's a meditator inside a bottle, inside a conical flask, which is how you do the experiments. So I've really been living the YogiLab since I was 14 years old, and I wanted to be able to take things that genuinely worked and give them to people. Because you read so much self-help, so much personal development, that's basically just a way of some other person making money.
And I'm interested because someone who listens to us might have been a meditation teacher for 20 years, for example, really gifted, but might want to impact more people and learn, okay, how do you do something online like this?
To me, the number one thing is, online is important, right? But the number one thing is, who are you helping? I didn't make any of my money from meditation or from any of these things that we're talking about. These are things that I spent my money to form these companies, right? I made money in other ways with market strategy, with sports trading, with property, with all these things. But from when I was 14 years old, I've been helping people. Because as soon as I realized, yesterday I was in suffering and I was depressed, and today I'm better. Yesterday I hated coming home and I was going to get into fights with my family every day of the week, and we're all going to hate each other, and I didn't want to touch the house, or help anyone. And today I'm cleaning up the house. And then tomorrow, the day after that, things got better and better and better. Yesterday I was being victimized by gangs in London. The day after that, I was confident enough to stand up for myself and start fighting, start doing martial arts, become a capable fighter. So something had very obviously changed in my life. So to me, it was just like straight away, right, who can I help with this? And I wasn't able to directly help my family in the beginning because obviously they don't want to hear anything from me. You know, I've been an arsehole to them my whole life up until 14, and then one day suddenly I've changed, right? But I started helping everyone else close to me, all my friends, all the people I'd meet. So the more you're willing to share your gift and genuinely help others, the more I think you build this momentum behind you that just gives you good things in your life. Call it karma, call it whatever you will. Till eventually my family did change from all of that. So then when it came round to the point where I actually wanted to start making money, I had all this momentum behind me of being willing to dedicate myself to other people.
And do you want to make money with YogiLab?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Definitely. Like the Vipassana, we give away 100% for free, but we have other products as well.
Okay.
Like meditation is just one side of it. We've also got nutritional programs, breathwork programs, high performance programs for people to develop. So 100%. I think every entity should provide for itself. So a company should at least be able to make its money back to be able to keep it going. And obviously I want us to be able to make more than that too. Okay. But Vipassana, I think is too important to charge for. I think everyone should have it, so we give it away for free. But so to me, step one is really, what are you dedicated to? And so find out what you're dedicated to. If you love people and you want to help them, then don't confuse that with the desire to make money. You know, be clear with yourself. Yeah, I want to make money, but also don't just give 20% of yourself because you think people aren't worth your time. If you're going to give of yourself, give 100% of yourself, you know, and do it, put everything into it. And then the universe will reward you for that, even though that sounds a bit fluffy. Also, you're sending a signal to yourself, which is, I'm not the type of person that only does things 20%. If I'm going to do this, I'm going to really do it. And I'm going to put 100% in. If I'm going to love someone, I'm going to really love them. If I'm going to start a company, I'm going to make it my life and my soul. One of my exes, she's got children, but she said that her first children were her companies. And so she treats her company and her employees like they're her family as well. Otherwise, she wouldn't do it. So she treats it like a big family. And I think that's the right attitude. I think if you're not willing to put everything in, then only expect mediocre results. So to that person who has a heart of gold and has been teaching meditation for 20 years but wants to monetize it, I would say first, become dedicated to the people you're teaching. Make them your life. And then start to, after that, decide where the avenue is to make money. Start to dig into, like I said, with the pattern recognition, to be able to look for opportunities and see where is the avenue for you to be able to make money back.
Yeah. And how does that look like? With the YogiLab, you have a branch which is more teaching Vipassana for free, and then you have more biohacking or high performance programs. That will be the how you monetize that.
Yeah, basically what we do full time, while you're there on site, Alex, is that we're looking into different programs that work. So all of us there are like guinea pigs. So we're consistently testing, looking for something that works, something that doesn't work. I know Vipassana works because it changed my life and gave me all of this. So that's a program we're happy to put there and give out. And then when we find someone who has some other skills that work, we test them on the team and we start experimenting with them, and we see, does this really make my life better or does it not? And then when we create a package out of that, then we're willing to be able to make it into an online program and then sell it to people, or get them to come and spend time with us at the Astana and train in all of it together.
How do you see it evolve? A little bit like a Mind Valley, like a central place where people go for their growth?
Not really. To be honest, what I'm more interested in is giving everyone the tools that they need to live a successful life. One of the earliest things I learned when I was a teenager, when I got into this process, was that it's not really important where I go or what I do. What's important is the rhythm I take with me. Like I said, if I have a rhythm that makes me happy in a jail cell, then that means it's a rhythm that can make me happy in a penthouse as well. And so, great, I got the penthouse, but if I'm tearing my hair out, I mean, I don't really have any hair to tear out right now, but if you are tearing your hair out in a penthouse and you are unhappy with all the things around you, the nice shiny things around you, then what's the point in being in the penthouse? So I think the important thing is just developing that rhythm, that consistency, and finding the things that you like. Then you can take that with you everywhere. And so what I would like to do is I would like to be able to make all the programs that address the key areas of life and for people to be able to have access to them everywhere. So they know that they can reliably come to YogiLab and know these techniques have been tested, these work, and if I integrate this, it is going to make my life better. So that's the dream.
Okay. And what's been the biggest challenge when building an online platform like YogiLab?
The online platform for me, it's the tech side,
Yeah.
simply because I don't like being on the computers. So learning all that stuff and working with people there, that's a technical challenge. Really, the biggest
How did you
challenge,
overcome that technical
just
tech?
training and learning skills. So I retract that. That's not the biggest
Okay. You
challenge.
didn't want to outsource?
Hmm?
You didn't want to outsource it?
No,
You learned it?
I'm happy to outsource once I understand. I
Mm.
don't want to outsource something I don't understand. So I'd rather understand first than outsource second there. But I think the bigger challenge, and it addresses your first question before about setting up YogiLab, is really just being able to work in unity with a team. I think coming together with a bunch of different personalities and people with all their different aims, there's this tendency for everything to be like a rap group, where it starts off well and successful, but then someone wants to be Beyonce, or
Mhm.
someone wants to be the lead rapper, the lead singer, and then it's all going to fall apart.
Mm.
So for me, the most important thing is putting the team first. So you've got to come together with a group of people who are willing to go through all the nonsense you're going to go through towards becoming developed human beings. And it's going to happen. No matter how developed you think you are as an individual, when you start working with others, you're going to run into problems and challenges, and you might have run into this with groups as well.
Mm.
And there comes a point where you have to have a discussion between you and reframe the relationship to be able to achieve everyone's aims together. And so to me, the biggest challenge is that. And I'm very happy with my team and that as a team, they're
Mm.
all willing to have those conversations. And for us to be able to genuinely connect with each other in a way where we can bring up the difficult issues, go through them, and then become stronger afterwards.
Mm. Yeah, let's talk about leadership and teamwork because I think a lot of my audience would be what you'd call solopreneurs. They can
Mm-hmm.
be healers or they can be coaches and often work like as a solo entrepreneur. And sometimes it gets lonely emotionally, but sometimes also it's just not the efficient way to go,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so, yeah, between a paradigm of an employee where you're told what to do and then a more empowering, independent way, it's sometimes hard to figure out where, like, even myself, I think a lot sometimes, okay, how to be a good leader. And sometimes it means, taking the mic and being on stage and kind of leading the way. And sometimes it's exactly the opposite, right? You talked
Mm-hmm.
about the Beyonce thing. It's like how you, so do you have good tips on working in a team where you obviously want to give your best and be an example, but at the same time really empower the others and motivate the others?
Number one is have a vision. If you don't have a vision, don't be the leader.
Mm.
Simple as that. And I'm not someone who thinks that being the leader is the best thing, actually. I
Mm.
couldn't care less if I was a soldier or if I'm the general.
Mm.
It doesn't matter to me in the slightest. And actually, if I'm being perfectly honest, I'd much rather be the soldier
Mm.
because then somebody can tell me what to do. And I'm like, okay, great. This is a cause I believe in. It's a great general. I'll follow
Mm.
them. I'll do that. But I think one of the big problems with our generation is no one wants to be the soldier.
Mm.
They just think because you can be an entrepreneur or you can do something on your own, you should do it on your own. You
Mm.
can be a leader, you should be a leader. I'm saying the opposite. I'd say that a well-developed human being can be a leader and a soldier,
Mm.
and a general and a soldier, and you need to choose which one is right for you.
Mm.
And so if you don't have the vision, and what I mean by vision is you don't have a crystal clear idea that you wake up to every day of where it is you want to go and what you want to achieve, I don't think you should be the leader. I
Mm.
think you should find someone with a vision like that or find a cause that you can be dedicated to. So then the question comes about how can you develop a vision if you do want to be a leader?
Can I stop you there though?
Mm-hmm.
Because I find sometimes I see people, they have a very, very clear vision and it's beautiful, but it's actually hard to be part of it because it's so strict in a way and you don't
Mm-hmm.
feel like there's a space for you.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm a leader, I try to have a vision, but I try to be conscious also to be like, okay, that's my vision, but it's flexible. And the people who come into my vision can like give their own twist to it and life to it. What do you think of that?
Yeah, 100%. I don't think we're saying different things. I think we're just talking about different stages of it. I think that the first thing is being able to have a vision. But the second thing, well, actually, even within the vision, what we're saying that's different there is that I'm not talking about a vision for yourself. That's literally just a plan for your life. I'm talking about a vision of something you want to achieve. Like going back to Kanye West, he has this vision of having this sacred city where everyone comes together, lives and worships God, and he reframes what it means to live like a monastery and building a model city, right? So that's not a vision for his life. That's a vision for people. So when I say a vision, I mean a vision for more than just yourself. Like we're saying with YogiLab, to produce 80 million meditators, to give people the tools to be able to do this like that. That's nothing to do with me. That's to do with people using it around the world. So I think that the vision needs to be broad enough to be able to include everyone who wants to move in that direction, who it will appeal to. And it's not going to appeal to everyone, but it'll appeal to everyone who can also touch on those specific aims. And what I mean about having a vision as well is that it is a real thing. I think that's where we're going to disagree. To me, it's not a flexible thing. It's like it should be more real to you than your day-to-day life. Like it's there, you can see it, you can touch it. So then if we're here and we're a team together, then slowly the more that we start to work on this together, we can both touch this same thing. And we realize we're not talking about an idea. We're talking about a real thing right there that's waiting to come into existence. Like with Steve Jobs. People don't think about it like this, but Steve Jobs is a manifester. Because he pulled something out of his imagination and now it's sitting there on the table over there. He created it physically. We're using them to be able to do this podcast and other things like that. So to me, if you don't have a super crystal clear vision of what it is that you want to do, then it means it's not ready to come into reality yet. And
interesting, because sometimes I feel like, okay, that's my vision, that's what I want, but I'm kind of in my limited mind. And if we put different minds together, like this vision that I have, okay, that's my vision in 5 years. But then if I come with you and with what I learned along the way, there's going to be something even better that I can't even picture right now.
I both agree and disagree with that. I agree in the sense that a vision can grow and change and breathe and become more detailed, and it should do that. But I disagree in the sense that it shouldn't, you should be afraid of it being fixed and accurate and a thing, because it's not my vision, it's a vision. And I'm the leader because I have the clearest view of it. But then if you come along and you have a clearer view of that same vision than me, then you're the leader. And we should be willing to pass that along. And that's what I mean. I think it's different models of creativity. I don't think of creativity as mine. I think of creativity and ideas as existing here. And if I can just sit still for long enough and open myself, then I can get an idea. And then maybe one of these guys over there is reaching up and we're touching the same idea, but whoever has the clearest vision of it will be able to bring it into reality. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah. So for me, a vision is like that. It's like, it's not mine. Then it becomes this egotistical thing of wanting to force your view on the world. It's more like, okay, we've experienced this thing and then we're coming together as a team. Like, how do we bring this thing into reality? How do we all pool our efforts to be able to do that?
Yeah.
And I think back to the difficulty is a group of people, 5 people, 6 people, 10 people, 20 people, putting their egos aside to be able to make themselves second and the vision first. And that just takes being a developed human being, learning to grow up, be emotionally stable, being able to put things in their rightful place.
We're going to be close to the end of this podcast, but I'd like to talk about entrepreneurship as the active branch of spirituality. I mean, I definitely think entrepreneurship has a big role to play in the current awakening happening. Why do you think entrepreneurship is important as an active branch when people in terms of spirituality often think about prayer and meditation and yoga?
Sure. Well, to me, I think it's an essential part of it, because let's say when you're praying, meditating, then you're like a receptacle. You're receiving this energy. Entrepreneurship is turning you into a funnel or a faucet, a tap. You're letting something run through you. We're all creating the world. Every single one of us is creating this world right now. But it's your choice whether you want to do it consciously or unconsciously, whether you want to do it effectively or ineffectively. And I think the people that step up and label themselves entrepreneurs are just recognizing the fact that they're part of the creative cycle of making this world. And then they're saying, right, what do I want to bring into this world? Like, you're bringing the light leaders into the world, and you want to teach people how to be able to bring the best of themselves and turn it into a business. So I think that's something we're all doing all the time. You're just teaching people to do it better. And so entrepreneurship is the active branch of spirituality because it's an opportunity to apply everything you learn and add it to the world and give it to other people. So to me, entrepreneurship is really like a big act of service. What do I have? What have I learned that I can share with others to be able to make this world a better place?
Beautiful.
Thank you, brother.
If we have someone who's listening right now, they already meditate every day, do their yoga, they're very healthy. They feel like they could be giving more to the world, could have more impact. What are three actions, simple steps that they could take right now at the end of this podcast?
One, and one of the biggest ones, is decide what you love so much that you would do it for the rest of your life, even if no one paid you. Like I said, for me, my movie is the meditation. Everything going on in the background is just the backdrop of it. I've already decided I'm going to die sitting alone meditating somewhere, and that's how I want to die. And it might happen tomorrow, it might happen 60 years in the future. It doesn't make any difference. So it's all stress is gone because of that. So pick something you love so much that you would dedicate yourself to it fully. That's number one. Two is, I would say, decide.
It can be also like a book to read or something simple.
No, I've got one. I just wanted to frame it into the correct words, which is just basically scratch your own itch. So you know this world so well. You love this world so well. You know this area of things that you care about. Like for me, meditation. It's nothing to do with the business. I just love meditation. I love what it did. So then I know what it was I was looking for when I was 14, when I was 16, when I was 18. And I know that it wasn't out there. That's why I created YogiLab. I created it for my 14-year-old self. So because you know something so well and you love it so well, then decide what it is that you need to be able to add to that world. And you know it because you're also a fan. You're also a recipient of things there. And then third thing is just believe in yourself. One thing that stopped me from getting into changing the world so much when I was younger and working more on an internal level is that I didn't believe an individual could have that much of an effect. I saw these massive, monstrous systems, global empires, and I thought one individual can't change that much.
Do you have a practice for people so they can believe in themselves? Because a lot of people, yes, they want more confidence, they want to find their purpose, they want to believe in themselves, but it seems simple, but it's not that
yes, I do,
easy.
Alec.
Do you have like a little tip, something like, okay, do this? I mean, obviously Vipassana.
100%. Practice Vipassana. YogiLab.com, retreats every month, practice Vipassana. You can learn it. My 60-year-old mother practices it. So someone out there who's a young entrepreneur can definitely learn it. And the reason why it gives you belief in yourself in particular is because it's like a sonar system where you learn to explore your internal reality. So you get to know exactly what you're made of, not what people have told you you're made of. But yeah, I'd say believe in yourself. Just have confidence. But even before that, you don't want to do Vipassana, fair enough, don't do Vipassana. You don't need a trick to believe in yourself. What I'm saying is this, that one person is enough to change the world. 2 people, wonderful. 3 people, amazing. 4 people, even better. But one person can change the world. If you decide what you're going to do and you say, I'm not going to give up until that's done, you make yourself a force to be reckoned with. And I think that one thing that we've lost a little bit, maybe because our generation is a little bit softer than the ones that came before it, is this ability to be able to just choose a thing and get it done. And that's why number 1 is so important, choose what you love. Because if you love it, you're not going to give up on it. Right? And then 2, you find out a problem in that area. 3, you pick a goal and you don't let go and believe that you can make it happen.
What if the goal you picked at the time it doesn't feel very relevant anymore? Because that's something I felt for me for a while. Now I feel more on purpose, but for a while I was like, oh, I want to do that, I want to do this. And after a year of doing it, I wasn't passionate anymore.
See, to me, I would say that's a problem with number 1, not number 3. That's like knowing what you love.
Okay.
And then you do it. But also, okay, a way to get around that with number 3 is don't just pick a goal. Pick a massive goal. Pick a goal that you would love to see someone else do and then do it yourself.
Okay, so at the end of this podcast, you write down that massive goal.
Massive goal. Like, for example, I don't care about going to Mars. But when Elon Musk talks about going to Mars, that's such a big goal, it gets me excited. You know, pick a goal that you're scared that you won't achieve and you won't see someone else achieve in your lifetime.
Mm.
Because then if it's that big, you need all of you to do it.
Mm.
You know? And if it gets you that excited, then it's gonna motivate you to get up and make it happen.
Love it.
Happy with that, Alex?
I am. So how can we follow you to start with?
You can find us on all the usual channels. YogiLab is on Instagram, the_yogi_lab. My personal one is Meditation Dave, and the website is yogilab.com. We're about to start running another meditation retreat, online meditation retreat. So if you want to join in, then they're for free there every month.
Is the Vipassana retreat online as intense as the 10 days you do?
Well, that depends how strict you are with yourself,
Okay.
because no one's going to be
I
able to
remember,
force you.
I remember it was pretty hard already when I was in the temple. So I think if it was just me and my laptop, it'd be pretty hard.
No, but on a real level, it is hard.
Yeah.
But the thing is that people look at the 10 days like it's a long time. But if I said to you, those 10 days are going to give you the skill that you need
Yeah.
to change your life, to be
Yeah.
a multimillionaire, to be extremely successful, to do whatever you want to do with your life, then 10 days seems like nothing.
I agree, and I did Vipassana, but I was happy that they took my smartphone.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. But also learning to be independent is a powerful thing. So I would say do it. The way that we teach it is directly focused on how to apply the technique in life. So people might find some different things from it than if they went to learn it in a center.
Thank you, David. Do you have one last word for our listeners?
Just don't be afraid to be exactly what you are, because the more you can be exactly what you are, the more you can bring what your specific gift is to the world. I think we've got too much of this trying to please other people nowadays and changing ourselves to be something different. If you're focused on being authentically who you are, you can't help but be something great, because only you has that to give the world. And that's what we all want, right? We want people to bring their best to the world.